Welcome to Meguilat Esther, part 3. So we introduced the concept of the Megillah, the paradox of Meguilat Esther 2 weeks ago. Last week, we started learning and understanding the first verses of Meguilat Esther. And today, we're going to continue learning those verses and understanding each character. It's very important to understand in which mindset each character is in order to really comprehend the power of that Megillah. Before that, we're just going to ask all of us to pray and to dedicate that class and all the other classes today. L'Refoua Shelema, Orit Bat. It's a boy?
Yeah.
Orit?
Yeah.
Really? Ah, Orit Ben Shiraz. Shiran. Orit Ben Shiran. And Eliyahu Hanavi Ben Tita Esther. Bezrat Hashem. Good news for both of them. And all the other people that we mentioned in the first class, obviously. Okay, so I'm just going to share with you our text today. Can you see well? Just make me a sign that you can see what I shared, the document. Everybody sees that? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so today we're going to resume sorry, I'm just trying to find out the historical context that we did. Second, as we were at verse number 5. Right? And we were saying that we were starting to see, okay, we spoke about the state of mind of the Jewish people at that time. And we were saying like they were in the exile, in the Babylonian exile. They had lived the destruction of the first Bet HaMikdash. They had received a prophecy from Yirmiyahu Hanavi that 70 years after the exile, there would be a return of the Jewish people in Eretz Israel with a rebuild of the Bet HaMikdash. So they had this hope, but they were in a time when they were suffering from the Babylonian Empire. And it was very, very difficult. We mentioned that last week. We spoke about Balthazar. After Balthazar come two kings, Syrian kings, Darius and Cyrus. So Darius number 1, because there will be a Darius number 2, and Cyrus, who are two Persian kings that will take over one after the other and make the people of Balthazar disappear and really start ruling over the empire, okay? So those two consecutive emperors will be a little bit better for the Jewish people, but still not great. At first, they will allow them to go back to Eretz Israel, but not so many people, Jewish people, will decide to go back, actually, only 40,000. And they will start rebuilding the Bet HaMikdash, but because of anti-Semitism, they will have to suspend the construction. So imagine the emotional state in which the Yehudim are at that moment in time, right? They are desperate. Some of them will start going back to Eretz Israel, will start rebuilding, but there's such hatred for the Jews over there that they will have to stop. So they are probably lost. They're scared. They're suffering from anti-Semitism. They're exiled. It's really like a very, very confusing and very dark moment for the Yehudim. And that's why we really have to have that in mind as we start the story, right? So after Darius and Cyrus comes Achashverosh. And then we see that there is a lot of confusion about the counting on the 70 years of exile, right? Balthazar, Darius, Cyrus, and Achashverosh all start counting from wrong moments in time. And this is why the prophecy of Yirmiyahu is not yet achieved. And that's why also Achashverosh starts thinking, wow, like the Hashem really abandoned the Jews, and we're going to celebrate that, right? So we were saying verse 5. So anybody would like to read verse 5 again? We're just going to read those words again in English. In English, you can read at the end.
No, c'est pas at the end. Number 5.
Yeah, at the end of this period. Yeah.
You have this one. I have this one.
But maybe that's a
3, 4, 5.
That's probably from somewhere else. That's in the following chapter. That's in chapter 2.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, so I will read it. At the end of this period, the king gave a banquet for 7 days in the court of the king's palace garden for all the people who lived in the fortress of Shushan, high and low alike. So we have to remember, we have Achashverosh, who has a legitimacy issue. He has a syndrome. We said like how do we say that? The syndrome, the imposter syndrome, right? He doesn't feel really legitimate to be the king, and therefore he wants to prove the world, and especially the part of the world that is under his empire and his kingship, that he is powerful, that he is almighty, that he rules the world, okay, that part of the world. And therefore, during 180 days, he will have a banquet for everyone, right? But then, at the end of this period, find back there we go. So for 6 months, right, from Rosh Chodesh Nisan to the 3rd of Tishri, he will try to impress all the ambassadors and all the people what's the name of the Syrian Empire, right? The Gaon Mivilna explains that over those 180 days, he was able to show off the 1,800 treasures he had stolen, a lot of them from the Bet HaMikdash, okay? So it was 10 per day, basically. And then he does a second party of 7 days, the one we're speaking about now, with only the people from Shushan. Why? Because he's a very strategic person, and that's all part of his megalomaniac plan, okay? His prime minister suggests to invite as many Jews as possible to that banquet in order to make them sin. He's going to invite the entire Shushan, among them all the Jews. And how will the Jews participate to that banquet? How will they participate? Will you go to a banquet that is not kosher? No. So he decides to make it a glad kosher banquet. Listen, it's going to be glad kosher, okay? So don't worry, you can come, join us. They want to have them feel like they're welcomed, but there they will be sinning, right? And so Mordechai, who is the Jewish leader at that time, who is like the rabbi in chief, let's say, he foresees that catastrophe, and he tells them not to join that party. They all come to Mordechai and they say, Mordechai, look, like it's even glad kosher. Let's go, like it's going to be amazing. But he knows what type of parties they are offering. It's parties that are not kosher, even if the food is kosher, but those are not kosher parties. There will be a lot of immoral acts. There will be a lot of problems with women and a lot of drinking and a lot of things that will be very bad for the Jews. So the fact that they say it's a kosher party, right? He's showing respect. The Jews say he's showing respect to us. Why shouldn't we honor our king? Like at the end, imagine Trump organizing like a glad kosher banquet for 7 days. Oh, but if it's glad kosher, let's go. Why not? And so Mordechai decides that since all the Yehudim want to participate, he has to go too. Because we know that when you have your Rav in a party, right, or anywhere, you're going to behave at your best. You're not going to let yourself slip far from who you really are or from the halacha. So Mordechai decides that as the rabbinical authority, he will also be present just to make sure to supervise everything, right? So okay, now if you want to read verse number 6, Laurie, you want?
Yeah. There were hangings of white cotton and blue wool, cut up by cords of fine linen and purple wool, to silver rods and alabaster columns. And there were couches of gold and silver on a pavement of marble, alabaster, mother of pearl, and mosaics.
Then you can continue with number 7.
Royal wine was served in abundance, as befits a king, in golden beakers, beakers of varied designs.
Okay. And I think we can even go with number 8 if you're okay with that.
And the rule for the drinking was no restrictions, for the king had given orders to every place steward to comply with each man's wishes.
Okay. So here we see that there's many details, and we can ask ourselves, why are there so many details of how the party was like? Is it so important for the Megillah? Is it so important? Let's remember, the idea of the Megillah is to reveal Hakadosh Baruch Hu and the Hashgacha Pratit, the divine providence. What type of lesson can we learn from all those descriptions, right? So let's say that it's in order to explain to us how all the senses, all the 5 senses were stimulated in that party. All the senses, we see that there are like blue cottons, labriut. So we see that the eye is stimulated, the mouth is stimulated, the smell is stimulated, right? The touch also, but there's one sense that is not being stimulated, is the hearing. And why? There's no music. Because he knows the spiritual power of music. Music, which we listen a lot on Purim, right, has the power to touch our neshama. So, and our emotions, and it would for sure limit our sinning, because we would connect a lot to our neshama and we would not sin. So why are we receiving so many details? Because it's important for us to understand the power and the almightiness of the king, right? If our enemy is so powerful and we defeated him, we won over him, this makes the miracle even greater. So it's important to give all those details at that moment of the story, because we're understanding the greatness of Achashverosh, the power of Achashverosh, the mightiness of Achashverosh. And this is going to explain to us how big the miracle was. Because if we are going to defeat a little king, let's say like the mayor of Aventura, okay, you know what? He was a little king. No, he was king over 127 nations. He had so much money. He did like amazing things with it. Like he was so powerful. He was so, okay, so it's very important to know our oppressor, because it's going to help us to see that Hashem is above even this powerful king. Okay? Now, who wants to read verse number 9?
In addition, Queen Vashti gave a banquet for women in the royal
Palace of King Achashverosh. Yeah. So that's very interesting. We sometimes forget about that also Vashti. So in Hebrew, it says Gam Vashti, right? So Vashti, she also starts a banquet for women. So we understand Achashverosh, he wanted to impress all the inhabitants, the male inhabitants of Shushan, with a purpose in mind, prove that he's legitimately a king, right? And on the other side, we have Vashti. So now we're going to discover a second character of this Megillah. And Vashti, she's not going to stay for long because you all know that she's going to be killed very soon in the story, but she's still very important. Because she's going to tap into the legitimacy of Achashverosh. She has a very important role in that, in the feeling that Achashverosh is not legitimate. So she has a very important role. We're going to see that, and they have also like a issue of Shalom Bayit that we're going to see. We know that Vashti and Achashverosh didn't have a love story, right? Remember that she's the daughter of Balthazar. She was very rich, and especially for Achashverosh, she was a legitimate queen. So by getting married with her, he would gain the crown, like not only by acquiring it with his fortunate money, but also because he is married to a real queen. So somehow like she brings legitimacy to him. So Vashti is really royalty. And when we see that, and when she sees that her husband is going to throw a party, we have to remember that she doesn't have much admiration for her husband. And not only that, she even thinks like he's a little ridiculous, like to try to prove who he is to the entire nation. And so she decides to show her greatness. But not only her greatness, she also decides to show the backstage of what is the royalty of Syria in that moment, of the Persian Empire, in that moment. And so she is inviting all the women to come, and she doesn't do it in the garden, just like Achashverosh. Yeah, it's not recording. So she doesn't do it in the garden like Achashverosh. She's doing it inside because she wants to show the backstage, the inside of the story, right? And one thing I want to mention about the text right now is that we're going to see, the text of the Megillah was written in order to give us hints. We say that everything is hidden. We can read that story like a fairy tale, but it's not. There is a code to that Meguilat Esther. And right now we're going to discover a code. There's a code in the way we present Vashti in the text. When we present her as Vashti Hamalka, right? Or when we present her as Malka Vashti, there is a difference. And the Gaon Milvina says that it is really ambivalent. When we read Vashti Hamalka, we are speaking about the person, Vashti as a woman, right? Vashti Hamalka. But when we read Malka Vashti, we are speaking about her title as a queen, right? When she is there to revindicate her title, her crown, when she wants to prove her royalty, right? So she decides to throw the banquet for women inside of the palace, contrary to the king, because she wants to show the women of Shushan what her daily life as a queen is like. And she's going to take them in the most private places of the palace. And behind that, we can see a real wheel, to really desacralize the image of Achashverosh. Because, Leavdil, it's nothing to do, but when a king wants to show his superpower, he's almighty. Let's take an example like Pharaoh, right? Pharaoh wanted to be seen as such a powerful king that he would be taken as a god, right? So what would he do? He would not show his human side to anyone. And one important need of a human being is to release himself from urine, like he needs to go to the restroom for number one or for number two. Pharaoh would never would say, look, I am a god. I never go to the restroom. I don't even have restrooms. He would go to the Nile, pretending like to immerse himself in the strength of the Nile, in the power of the Nile. But the truth is that he was doing his human needs inside of the Nile, okay? So here she wants to desacralize Achashverosh. You're going to see they really have an issue of Shalom Bait. She wants to prove the world that he's not that big of a king. Don't think that he's almighty. He's just a human being. Come with me, I'm going to give you a tour, right? And you can imagine like all the women from Shushan entering the palace, right? And they will go and see the restroom, like where they sleep, and they discover that, you know what? He's just another human being. They have a regular life, like all of us. He's not
What's
such,
the point of his face,
because,
his simple face?
so she wants to put him down.
Okay.
They are not in love. Like they didn't get married for love reason. So Balthazar was from the Babylonian Empire, right? The Syrian Empire takes over the Babylonian Empire and destroys the Babylonian Empire. Comes Achashverosh after Cyrus and Darius, two different empires, Syrian, that have destroyed Balthazar's empire. And basically, she's a captive. She had to marry Achashverosh.
Yeah.
See? So she feels like, this guy, I hate him. He destroyed everything that my father had built. He took over, even like the title of king, but he's not worth my father, right? So she wants to show the world that he's nothing. And especially because he is, we said last week, an empty shell. He pretends to be, but he didn't fight to get the empire. And even the money he bought the empire with came to him as he was digging under the river of Euphrates, and he discovered Nebuchadnezzar's treasure. But it was a coincidence, so to say. Really, it was the plans of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So he didn't do anything. He's not worth anything. And she knows that more than anyone else. So she says, you want to prove your greatness? Remember what you did to my family? I'm gonna show the world who you truly are. You're just a nothing. You're just a regular human being. You're not a king, nor to me, nor to this country. And it's not because you found money and you bought and you acquired those 127 nations that you're worth anything. You can try to put paillettes to the world, to put light and to show all those golds and treasures. But the truth is that this is not yours. You are not a legitimate person. Do you mind? Thank you so much. 1100, c'est le code. Sí. Gracias, es muy amable.
O sea, todo viene bien, pero tenía como un líquido ahí.
No se preocupe, está bien. Gracias por todo. El código es 1100. Gracias. Thank you so much. Gracias. Gracias, Elena.
Thank you.
Gracias a te. Okay. So this is what's going on in her head. Oh, Celine, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Did King Ahasuerus come from a commoner family, like just a regular person?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And that's how he became king because he found the wealth of Nebuchadnezzar.
Exact.
In like a river, you said?
Under the Euphrates, It was buried over there.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, don't hesitate to jump in because I don't always see the hands. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure I'm like understanding it well because it's a very interesting story. I don't know this part, so it's very interesting. Thank you.
We'll do that after, don't worry. Thank you so much, Celine. Okay, so on day number 7 of the banquet, right, it is Shabbat. And not only that, but since the banquet, the first banquet of 180 days, started on Rosh Chodesh Nisan and ended until the 3rd of Tishri, Gimel Tishri, נכון? So if we add 7 days to Gimel Tishri, we are Yom Kippur. So wait, the 7th day of the banquet ends on Yom Kippur. C'est fou, hein? It's crazy. So it's the day of Kippur. And this is when the
last day
7th
of
day.
banquet was Kippur.
Yes.
Okay. And the Jewish went to the banquet.
So they went to the banquet during the week, but let's see now. And this is when the king was merry with wine, was drunk, right? Okay, so when we read another key to the, wait, do I have to, on the 7th day? Okay, so that's the verse number 10. Anybody would like to read verse number 10 in English?
On the 7th, I read.
Yeah, sure.
On the 7th day, when the king was merry with wine, he ordered Meuman, Bitsera, Harbona, Biga, Abaga, Abagta, Zetar, and Karkas, the 7 in Uno, in attendance of King Ahasuerus.
So there were 7 advisors of Ahasuerus, and we'll see that there is one that is more important than the others, because we will discover after, there's a lot of suspense in this Megillat learning, but we will discover later on that one of them is actually another name for Aman. At least a lot of commentators say that.
Yeah,
But anyway,
Meuman.
we'll see that, you're gonna see.
Okay.
So we said it's the day of Shabbat, and we say Ketov Lev HaMelech. The king, his heart was very happy. Why? Because he had a lot of wine. Okay, it's been like already 187 days of banquet. It's crazy. Okay. Now we're going to see a second key to the Megillah is when we read HaMelech without the name Achashverosh behind, it is a code that we don't speak about Achashverosh, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Okay.
You know that the Megillah doesn't.
So you said in the beginning, in the first class.
Yes, I said that. I don't remember.
And
Maybe.
I remember that you said about the Melech, when you were talking about the Melech.
Yeah.
It was,
So there is like, why? Because Hashem, we said he's hiding. He's hiding in the entire story, and yet we don't say his name, not even once, even though this is one of the most important texts of the Tanakh, since we have to read it. We have the obligation to read it twice the same day, like once at night, once during the day, right? This is the only text we said with Zerer HaMalek that we have the obligation to read. And yet there's not the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but now we're discovering that when we read HaMelech without the name of Achashverosh behind, this is actually a code, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the heart of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Besimcha, because it was Yom Kippur and Shabbat, right? And the Yehudim will not attend the banquet that day. On the contrary, they will do Kol Nidre, the prayers, everything we know on Yom Kippur, right? So in the first level of understanding, Achashverosh was a little drunk and he was thinking in this unclear moment, maybe people think I'm not legitimate as a king, since it's his obsession, because I married Vashti and she's legitimate heir, legally the heritage of royalty. So maybe they think I'm just the king because of her, right? He's going to ask the servants to bring Vashti Hamalka, not in her royal title. Vashti Hamalka, okay? Not Malka Vashti, right?
Because
So bring me the girl,
Mm.
bring me that woman of mine. Don't consider her as the queen. Don't treat her as a queen. I want you to come with just the royal crown. Why? I have the obsession as Achashverosh that I need to prove who I am. People think I'm a nothing because I married that queen, and they think I'm a king only because I married that queen. I want to show her. I want to show them that she's not such a queen at the end. Look at her. Like he's going to present her like as if we show off an animal. Naked. The levush, the clothing, is what represents a human being and the dignity, right? We're going to speak about that, by the way. March the 4th, we have a fashion night about tzniut with the alot. It's going to be amazing. I'll speak about that after. But it's very interesting to see that he brings her naked. Why? Because there's nothing less human than presenting someone naked to a public, right? You take away her dignity. So if you take away her human dignity, how much more so her royalty, right?
It was coming to show the body at that time.
He was what?
It was a common thing to
Not at all.
make it.
No. It was not.
He asked something that is not even human being to ask.
He's 187 days drunk, first of all. Second, he's thinking about only one thing. I want them to see that I am a king. Okay, bring her to me. Sorry for my very good.
Comedian.
And he said like he has to prove that she's nothing, right? So he's asking, Ariela, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
You said to just speak in if need be. I wanted to know, I thought that Vashti would have come naked, that she was interested in showing off and doing that. Obviously, she couldn't because she was embarrassed of her pimples and whatever, but it was like no, it was like a normal request of the king, I thought.
It was, we'll see. Well, the Mefarshim on that say that it's actually not, but we'll see, because there are several, again, there's a lot of comments on the Megillat Esther. I'm following the Maggid, j'arrive pas à parler. Here is the Gaon Vilna, I think, that is commenting. But we're gonna see some commentaries that we didn't always learn. I'm just turning off your microphone because I'm hearing an echo. So we're going to see like the code behind all that. So we're taking the story not to a level of pshat, like not the first level of understanding. We're taking the story to try to decode, to see the sod, to reveal the sod. And that's why also we say that the wine comes in and the sod comes out, you know, that the secrets come out. So it's the idea of this is to reveal things that were hidden. So we're going to see that there are several interpretations, and we're going to see why she refuses. But Ariela, do you want to add something else? Sorry, I turned off your microphone.
It's fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Sorry, because there was echo. I don't know why. Like
No worries. I'm on my way. It's probably because
Okay,
I'm in the car.
we're waiting for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so he wants to reduce her to a beautiful body, right? And take away the royalty from her. But she refuses. She refuses. How? It says, Vateman Hamalka Vashti. And so what does it say? You think you're going to make me lose my crown? I will not. I am the queen, right? Hamalka Vashti. It's not Vashti Hamalka, right? She's actually regaining her crown. Do you think I'm going to go? She ruins the entire 187 days of hard work that he did. she shows that not only he is not legitimate as a king, but even in his couple, he is not the one who is in charge, right? So it's 10:56. We have the option to either finish now this class and learn Tehillim, which we're supposed to do, or we continue a little bit the Megillah until 11:30, and Sarah does the, no, we're gonna do the Tehillim, right? Makes more sense. Okay, so we're gonna finish here for today. Next week we don't have class, but the following week, Bezrat Hashem, we'll see from verse 12, 13, yeah,
12, 13.
12, 13, and up, okay?
I learned so much. I
Bah.
didn't know the difference of Amalka, Vashti, Amalka.
I didn't know